This is NBC's Sports World, and today it's brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. By Allied Signals Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go. By Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever, only at Sears. And by DuPont, better things for better living.
Those are Snake Eyes. Don the Snake Prudhomme on his final strike tour. He has 7 U.S. national titles to his credit. The most emotional came 24 years ago on this very same track.
'70, where Jim Nicole and I were going for it in the final round, and his clutch came out of his car right in the lights and cut his car in half, and he went over the guardrail, and I went spinning down at the end of the track, you know, following his car, and I figured he had lost his life at that time.
I think I'm good. Oh my God, I see that car go by me. I couldn't believe it. There's no back section on it or nothing.
Prudhomme expected the worst, but Jim Nicole walked away from that accident, and obviously Prudhomme did not follow up on his threat to retire.
The Snake comes to Indy this year, though, full of confidence. 2 weeks ago, Brainerd, Minnesota, he won, beating points leader Scott Coletta in the final round. He ran a career best elapsed time. Kenny Bernstein and his crew chief Dale Armstrong have to be a little concerned right here. In round number 1, they overpowered the racetrack. Even though Kenny lost traction, his opponent Pat Dakin had more problems than he did, and Bernstein is around the stage for round 2. The Snake, well, he qualified number 2 at a 477, 295 miles an hour. He holds a lot of cards in this encounter.
This is a marquee matchup if there ever was one. The Snake against Kenny Bernstein.
The Snake, with his quicker elapsed time from the previous round, has the lane choice. Dale Armstrong hopes he's found the proper balance of clutch and horsepower to get Kenny Bernstein down the IRP quarter mile.
Reaction times were close.
Identical, really. Prudhomme breaks something. Kenny Bernstein, oh my. The speed is faster than the current national record, 307 miles an hour, and the best elapsed time Bernstein has ever run, a 478.
Bernstein's reaction, 477. Prudhomme's 479. They're dead even at the start. Then at about the quarter track, something breaks in Don Prudhomme's car. Steve Evans at the far end says it was a drive shaft. That enables Kenny Bernstein to pull away for the win, 307.79 miles per hour, the second fastest speed ever run in the NHRA. The Snake will not strike in his final U.S. Nationals. There are a pair of legends for the last time at Indianapolis.
Kenny, can you begin to describe to everyone at home what it feels like to run 307 miles an hour?
Holy cow, I didn't realize it at all, I can tell you that. I thought it was pretty good because it moved around in the middle a little bit and it was picking up. But let me tell you, Prudhomme's a class act over there. We're really going to hate losing him as a driver in this sport, but back as an owner, that'll be great.
So Bernstein moves on to the semifinal round. Up next, Eddie Hill against Scott Coletta. There's Fuzzy Carter, Eddie Hill's crew chief, directing Eddie back into his starting position. Eddie, the #1 qualifier, 58 years old from Wichita Falls, Texas. He's been around an awfully long time, but he's never won the U.S. Nationals. He's won everything else but the U.S. Nationals. Eddie's opponent, Scott Coletta, 32 years old from Belleville, Michigan. We saw his father advance to the semifinals earlier. Scott would like to be there as well.
And no one has to tell Eddie Hill, who qualified #1 at a 476, that Scott Coletta has been in the final round the last 7 races consecutively. Ursie Hill, we talked a little earlier. She said, I don't like being the #1 qualifier. It's almost kind of a jinx. It's like you're right on the ragged edge of traction or smoking the tires. So let's see how Fuzzy Carter and Eddie Hill have set up this car. Scott Coletta way first. Scott Coletta. Scott Coletta. No! It is Eddie Hill. A picture-perfect 4.77 elapsed time, 292 miles an hour. Even though Coletta runs almost 300, he just didn't do it. Worth enough.
Look at it again. Coletta in the far lane got the jump at the start. 300ths faster with the green than Eddie Hill. At half track, Hill takes the lead, but from there, he's hanging on for dear life. Coletta has the faster race car, 299 to Hill's 292, but Eddie Hill wins by 12 thousandths of a second. Here's Steve Evans.
Eddie, you won that one in style, a 477. Nice balance on the racetrack.
Oh, great. Man, this car is so much fun when everything works. I love it when the parts don't fall off.
You're going to get Pat Austin next round. You've got lane choice.
Oh, great. Well, we'll take it. Man, we're having some fun. This is why we still like to do this after all these years. Thanks, boss. Yes.
So we're down to the final four in Top Fuel. The number 1 qualifier, Eddie Hill, will square off against the 12th qualifier, Pat Austin. And then it's number 7, Kenny Bernstein, against the 6th qualifier, Connie Coletta.
And next up, Brian, the first race in round 2 of the funny car category. These are drag racing machines not made for the claustrophobic. Take the engine out of a Top Fuel dragster, put it in front of the driver, wrap it with a carbon fiber replica body, and you got a funny car. That is Kenji Okazaki, the Japanese national in the Moon Eyes car, runner-up here 1 year ago to John Force. And here is a car you can never predict. Mark Oswald has not run a full season. You saw him win the funny car category here on Sports World at Englishtown this past May. Never know what to expect from Oswald except some big numbers. He qualified number 7 at a 5:16, 293 miles an hour. So the real pleasant surprise of the 40th anniversary U.S. Nationals is maybe this guy. The fans love him. Kenji Okazaki qualified number 2 at a 5:12. Only John Force was quicker.
And he had a huge disappointment last year in the final against John Force. The car broke before they could get into the staging area. He could not answer the call. Force went down solo. Kenji would love a rematch in this year's final.
Jim Dunn, Kenji's car owner, has been very hard on his driving this week and yelling at him between rounds, really punishing him. Oh my, Kenji, almost a perfect start. You can't do it better than that. Kenji Okazaki, 5.05 seconds. His reaction time, Brian, 100th away from being perfect.
So Okazaki makes it to the semi for the 3rd time in 1994. And by the looks of things, that crew has a lot of work to do before the semifinal round. And look at this, the crowd giving the Snake a standing ovation after his final run at the U.S. Nationals.
Snake, we thank you, sir. Incredible run.
We'll be back after this. Brian Hammond, Steve Evans, Frank Hawley back with you at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Quarterfinal round of the funny cars. And you're looking at the man who has dominated this series in John Force.
Oh, absolutely. He's dominated qualifying here at the U.S. Nationals at a 5:04. Earlier in round number 1, he had a 5:03. He holds a national record of 499. If he can better that, it's worth an extra $50,000. And I wonder if that isn't weighing on the mind of Austin Roy, you see to the left, the commander-in-chief of the Force attack. You know, as far as the Winston Championship is concerned for 1994, take a look. You can stick a fork in it. It's done. John Force with 12,000 and change. He's going to win it. The race really is between Al Hoffman, Chuck Etchels, Pendergun, and Spurlock for that 2nd position, and a lot of Winston bonus cash there as well.
And Casey Spurlock is John Force's opponent here in the quarterfinal round. Spurlock, they call him Hollywood.
He is a rather flamboyant guy. He won the opening event, the Winter Nationals in California, for the 2nd time. And who could forget a year ago when John Force finally won the U.S. Nationals, and he did it in style, picking up the Big Butt Shootout on Sunday, the U.S. Nationals on Monday. But so far this year, he has not made a lot of money here. Al Hoffman won the 50 grand in the Butt Shootout yesterday. Force, maybe right now, is trying to set a national record. I don't know if this track will hold it, Brian. It's certainly not getting any better.
Will certainly become a story nowadays when John Force doesn't set some kind of a record.
Casey Spurlock in a brand new race car, untried when it arrived here. Force loses traction, tries to regain, no hope. Casey Spurlock, 5.15 seconds, 292 miles an hour. A little revenge for his final round loss at Gainesville this year to Force.
Watch the right lane. The header flames. Force is on the gas. Then he loses traction. Then he starts backpedaling, trying to regain traction. Watch him nail it again, and the front end comes off the ground. By that time, Casey Spurlock was long gone, and John Force will be back on the trailer heading to California. Coming up next, it's Chuck Etchels against Dean Scusa. But before we get to that, here's Steve with an upset winner.
So many teams, when they race John Force, try to beat him with performance and beat themselves. You didn't do that.
No, Steve, we didn't. We had 57 minutes to get this car ready between rounds. Came to the starting line, didn't even have a chance to start the car. My guys did a great job. I didn't let it shake me in the car, and we beat the champ.
What went through your mind when you realized Force was out of the race?
I can't even tell you. I was so excited when I never saw Force up beside me. I saw that wind light come on at the guardrail, and I was ecstatic inside the car. It's a great day.
Indeed. The script is out of Hollywood.
Casey Spurlock now in the semifinals. You're riding on board with Chuck Etchell, 40 years old from Putnam, Connecticut, in his Dodge Avenger. He'll be facing off against Dean Scusa. There's Glenn Micris, the crew chief for Scusa, 27 years old from Brecksville, Ohio.
And Scusa is a very charismatic young man. It's a family operation out of Toledo, qualified number 5 at a 5:16. Etchells had a horrible fire in Gainesville, Florida in March. It took them a lot of races to recover. They burned up their computer system. A lot of their data went away, but they're back on track. Qualified number 4. Crew chief John Medlin tuned this thing up to a 5:15 at 292. Scusa had a brush with the crash wall in Brandon 2 weeks ago. That accounts for the brand new still in white Pontiac Formula 3 body. Chuck Etchells was the first to debut the new Dodge Avenger body, and it pierces through the atmosphere. It is Etchells at 527, 285 miles an hour. Dean Scusa having lots and lots of problems. 703, only 136.
And they're putting the body down now on the Rug Doctor funny car. They made their repairs after their problems in the first round. This is the first car ever to go over 300 miles per hour in the funny car division. They did that less than a year ago. And Epler will be squaring off against Cruz Pedregon in the McDonald's car. Pedregon, the 1992 U.S. National Champion. And he went on to win the Winston Championship that year. Chuck Etchells is in the semis, and he's with Steve.
Well, Chuck, you're going the right way in eliminations, but the wrong way on the clock. 527s aren't going to win the U.S. Nationals.
No, I had to pedal. It started shaking real hard. We obviously just missed it on tune-up a little bit, but we're here to go another round, and that's what we care about.
A little surprised how good the track is, considering the weather, the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's great, and, you know, I don't think lane choice really means anything, so I'm really not too upset with the 27. Hopefully John Medlin can look at the computer, make the right decision, and whoever we get, we're going to try and take them out.
Will have to be faster than a 5:27 if he plans on winning this year's running of the U.S. Nationals. Epler and Pedregon now backing into their starting positions. Cruz Pedregon has not won a race yet this year at 94, but he's been a runner-up twice. Jim Epler has had a rough season. 37 years old from Vancouver, Washington. A win here today would make up for a lot of hard time.
And there's a problem with Epler's car. Remember, Frank Hawley told us about the thrash they went through after round 1. That started Buster Couch pointing at something leaking on the pavement. He's the man that will make the ultimate decision. Buster says, shut it off. What a break for Cruz Pedregon. He has to make the run. The rules require it. And I think he will run as hard as he can for his new crew chief, Bob Brandt, who needs more and more data to get this car back into championship form. Bob only on the payroll. Well, this is the second race, really. Replacing Mike Green. Watch Cruz. Let's see what he does. He's a magnificent driver. Has tremendous car control and finesse with this Oldsmobile automobile. Oh, that's pretty. Whoa, so's the elapsed time. That'll cheer him up. 5:12 at 295 miles an hour. Pedregon to the semis. To the pits goes Epler.
And there's the oil on the pavement that Buster Couch was pointing to. He saw the problem and made Epler shut down. So here's a look at the final 4 in the funny cars. Cruz Pedregon will take on Kenji Okazaki. Okazaki has lane choice, and Casey Spurlock has lane choice in his battle against Chuck Etchells. Here's Frank with Jim Epler.
Jim, your guys thrashed just really hard to get this car ready for the second round of competition. What happened up there?
Well, I must have had some kind of an oil leak. You know, it was really unfortunate they ran those alcohol dragsters before us, but we didn't have time to really check it real good on the warm-up. And I had the same tune-up in there we had first round, so I felt pretty confident it'd run good again. But I'm really proud of my crew. Lance Larson, Steve Hillier, and the rest of the guys did a great job.
Even though we had a rain delay, the crowd stuck around. It is a huge crowd at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll be back after this break and our Prudential update from New York.